What's going on, everybody? Happy Memorial Day weekend. I am back with my friend Ryan. It has only been like a couple of weeks since we've done this, more like I think 8 or something like that. But we're we're here. We're here, and we're just here to chat a little bit. We're going to talk about like one overarching topic, and just kind of see where it goes. So hopefully everybody that is here is going to enjoy is enjoying their weekend. And Ryan, it's nice to have you back. Yeah, what's new, dude?
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's been a little while. Life has been what it is, a season. You live a season at a time, and the year started off with a bang collecting, and then just some things happened, and there was other things, to kind of focus on. So
Right.
been dealing with some things, but it's great. Things are going well, and it was kind of good to kind of have a reset, you know.
Right.
But it's great.
Good, good. Well, I'm glad that things are going well. And I think for all of us, any of us that are collecting, it can get overwhelming at times. And when you throw in all the other things that life throws at you, whether
Yeah.
it's your family or your career or, a bad hobby experience or whatever, it's
hmm
gonna make you want to take a break. So, just with the old theme of this episode and our chat being about, taking breaks while you're in this hobby, was there any one particular thing that like set you down the path of saying, okay, you know what, it's time to take a step back for a couple of months and reset?
Yeah, we had talked about goals at the beginning of the year, and
Yeah.
one of the things I really wanted to focus on was trying to downsize, and process had started, but it would just I would start looking through the cabinets, and of course, we talked about the collection I'd been trying to sell, and a lot of that's just been kind of in the closet too, and it just kind of got overwhelming. I would look at it and go like, I just don't want to take the time to try to figure this out right now with everything that's going on, and that was a piece of it. You just kind of look at everything if you've collected for a long time or you've picked up a bunch of bulk, and you're like, okay, I feel like I have a game plan, and then it's like I would rather just take it all and I don't know,
Right.
sit it on the curb, but it's like out
Right.
of sight, out of mind kind of thing. But that
Right.
that kind of was a little bit of it. It was just kind of frustration with that, and honestly, I was like thinking about moving forward. My daughter's going to be a senior this coming school year. Thinking about the expenses of that. Thinking about, you know, that it was just a good time to kind of take a break and reprioritize some things. Look at, where I was at financially, not just
Right.
with like my hobby side of things, but just overall for the family and things that are coming up. My son just turned 15, and we just went and got his permit. So we got a lot of things coming down the pipe.
Right.
And I was like, I just other things needed attention. So
Mhm.
so that was really like in 2018, I jumped away uh, probably for 8 months. I mean, that year
Right.
was one year where I just felt like it wasn't fun. I mean,
Yeah.
it was fun to look at stuff, but things would come in the mail, and I just wasn't, the passion kind of died off. And
Hmm.
that I kind of had that same feeling probably mid-February. It just was like, you know, things started off great collecting for the year, and then it was just like the fire just kind of went out, and I felt like I got to reassess some things
Right.
personally. And of course, you can spend a lot of money doing this, so I
A
just
lot.
kind of wanted to make sure that you know that I was preparing financially for what was coming down the road for us as a
Mhm.
family, and so I was like, I got to just take a break.
I think it's no matter what stage of life you're in, you and I are the same in our passion for collecting, but we're in two very different places currently.
Yeah,
You with your family and me not. But I think regardless, the hobby can get it to a place where you want to take a step back, where you feel like you're not enjoying it.
yeah,
So, I guess my question to you and to the people that are watching, we got a couple people in here watching right now. My question for you guys, and I'm going to think about this myself, is like, what are the factors that need to be there that are keeping it fun? You know what I mean? Like when any of those things are gone from the hobby for us, from our personal experience, it definitely becomes something that's not enjoyable to do. I mean, you're going to spend all this money on it. You want it to be fun. So I'm going to throw out the
yeah,
first one, and that's community. You know what I mean? I think when you're feeling a strong sense of community between you and your friends, and people are helping you out, you're helping them out, you're talking about each other's collections, you're just continuing to communicate. I think when that kind of dies off, it can be a really kind of a boring,
Mhm.
place for me to be in personally. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, that thing about it a lot is, I'm a very outgoing, extroverted individual. So
Right.
having communication with people who have similar interests, I mean, that's key to me because you're talking about things that you enjoy together, and you learn from each other. You kind of have a chance to celebrate each other's, successes in the hobby and what you're looking for, and making sure you're looking out for each other. And when you just feel like you have that disconnection, it just feels like you're on an island. And I was thinking about it earlier, which Darrell Revis comes to mind, but that's not the direction I'm going with this. Like, no man is an island unto himself. When you feel isolated and you feel like you just kind of go, what's the point of doing this sometimes?
Hmm.
Um,
Right.
and if you're not having a good time, if you don't have people to share that with, and I think that's why people jump to social media. I mean, you think about how many people who may not connect with people locally in the hobby. They may not have a card shop. They may not have friends who collect, but they can jump on social media. They can meet people like we've all done.
Hmm.
That's you see that people are reaching out and connecting, whether they're just looking for people to give them some affirmation for their collection, or they're really wanting to connect and build friendships and relationships in the hobby. So yeah, I think anything that you do in life, whether you are someone who's outgoing or if you're maybe even introverted a little bit, you want to share things with people and
Right.
so isolation, individual, that's just not it's going to cause you to kind of not enjoy anything.
Right.
So yeah, I think community is a huge part of what we do just in anything in life, and particularly with a
Hmm.
hobby, because it's something that you go, this is fun, this is what I want to do, and I want to share it with other people.
Right.
And we've seen we've seen massive collections of people who've kind of gone on, and I think the Chasing Cardboard guys did one of a guy who had passed, and he just had so much stuff. And but they were like, he didn't have many people to share it with, but he would go out and he would go and into the community and educate people about collecting and hobbies, and he collected more than just cards. So I really think that's number one, is just connections are important in anything you do in life.
Yeah.
But with your hobby, with collecting cards, it's I think it's just fundamentally a piece of what's going to happen. I mean, that's got to be there.
Definitely. There's a huge piece of the enjoyment factor for a lot of us that includes, just like it was when we were kids. If you and I went out and we both opened a pack, and you got a Javi Lopez and I got an Alex Rodriguez out of a pack, if that's who we were collecting, or whoever, Justin Jefferson, Marc Andre Fleury, we'd be
Hmm.
high fiving each other, man. Like
Yeah.
that. Those moments. I mean, I look back on those moments so much. Still, high fiving my dad when I got a Joey Cora card, which I still own. But you don't really get that anymore. Especially most people our age have families, right? So I think
Right.
that just takes precedent, as it should, over everything
Mhm.
else. And so finding the time to connect, social media gives you that. That's why we
Yeah.
do these episodes. That's why we do the round table, and Jeremy Lee, he's doing his show. I mean, it's really about educating and bringing people together. So the community
Mhm.
aspect for me really is the top dog there. But I also think when the hobby is pulling you away from those priorities, the personal priorities, that's when you do have to take a step back, like you had mentioned earlier. And I think it's a smart decision. I think some people try to just power on through, and there's nothing worse in life than in trying to do a hobby and getting
Mhm.
nothing out of it, feeling like you're wasting your time, or
Yeah.
you're in no man's land, like you said, aimlessly wandering around. That is why goals are so essential.
Yeah.
Which we've talked about a lot on here so far. But you know,
Yeah.
now that you're kind of looking back, and now that you're kind of coming back into it, do you feel like this is something that was super needed for you to kind of get back on track?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you don't really miss something until it's absent, right? I mean, that's kind of the idea of when you're ingrained in something and it's in front of you all the time. And to be honest, I know I know for me, and I'm sure a lot of us who've collected for a long time, it can become it not necessarily obsessive, but it can be on your mind a lot. And
Yeah, it's true.
when you wake up and it's on your mind and you're any downtime you have, and I kind of had to assess some things personally and just go, okay, is this taking precedence over things that other things? Because I spend time with my kids collecting, and you can see behind me, my youngest, he's still into cards, but I kind of saw it modeled after him because he's like, Dad, I just want to take a break because there's other things I want to do. And um, you go, well, maybe I need to kind of take a little lesson from a 10-year-old is like, maybe sometimes you're, like you said, you're trying to power through and say, well, I know I like this, but right now it's not the most enjoyable thing I'm doing. So why am I still doing this? And maybe there needs to be a break. So that separation allows you to take the time to really evaluate, why you do something. Like, why you take a job. There has to be reasons. Like you don't just take a job because of I mean, I don't, but I mean, money is part of it, of course, but there's multiple things that go into moving locations, taking a different job, or just, it's something as simple as what we do for fun and a hobby. You really need to know, like, why am I doing this? And I think that's kind of the tipping point of where we're at in sports cards because of all of the spotlight that's been on it so much since 2020, all the people that's jumped in and out. You've got this, it's the hot, flashy thing still to a degree, even though some things are cooling off in some areas. But, why are you doing this? Are you doing it because you want to make money? Are you doing it because you want to have a sense of community? Or you like cards? Do you like the sport? Do you want to have a deeper connection? I think for us as kids, that's where we started. We collected cards because we got cards of players who we felt connections with on the teams that we liked or who were superstars. I don't ever remember feeling like if I got a Ken Griffey Jr. card, like I'm better than my friends because I have a Ken Griffey Jr. card. It was, I got a Ken Griffey Jr. card and it's awesome because we all loved him. And if we had duplicates or something, we would share them, we would trade them, so the why is really for me, it's what it boils down to is, why do you want to do this? And when you can sit there and you can think about, well, this is why, this is what I get out of it. This is what happens. And this is a warning and I'm sure some people have dealt with this, but you can easily allow your hobbies to become a way to suppress other things that you need to deal with. It can be a way,
we've all been there.
It can be a way to avoid facing things, that you need to address, whether it's mental, physical, relationship, whatever it is, because we understand that people can lean on other things to deal with that. We know from anything from drugs, alcohol. I mean, I know that's the extreme end, but it can be just as simple as, buying cards or purses or shoes, it's coping, so you got to look at it and go, okay, am I using this to cope with something because it's fun and it makes me feel good? And I had to step back and kind of look at that. Was like, is this something that where if I'm frustrated or struggling with something, like, am I just using this to kind of bury it? And it's not dealing with the sign, the medical thing. Like, you got to fix the problem at the root. You can't just treat the symptoms. And, baseball cards and sports cards could be a salve for things that you don't want to address. So it's highly important that you take a step back if you feel like you need to. And really reassess, like, why is this important to me? Why do I like it to begin with? And if I'm not doing it for those reasons, I just need to take a break and step away and maybe really look and see if there's some things that I want to address in my life that I'm using this to cope with. So
that's man, a lot of good points there. Jesus, about 5 or 6 clippable moments in there that I can think of already. I do want to ask the people that are watching live. I'm going to make it a super simple question so that we can get people involved in the chat here. Why do you find yourself collecting? What is it about this hobby that keeps you here? Ryan and I would love to know that, because I think it's a question that I think sometimes, again, you can get so wrapped up in the chase, the hunt, the trying to be what's the phrase, better than the Smiths, or what the heck is that phrase? I'm like,
Yeah.
how do you say that correctly?
Keeping up with the Joneses or
There
the
it
Smiths.
is.
Yeah.
Thank you. Keeping up, because clearly that I'm one of those people. But the whole
Ah,
keeping up with this collector, there you can easily fall into that
yeah.
trap. So I think that's why we, even though you took a break, which is great, you still have those goals to fall back on once you come
Yeah.
back. So you always can say, okay, can I achieve these goals for my collection? Do I
Yeah.
need to stay in it for an entire year? Can I take a break? Can I,
Mhm.
kind of take the pedal off a little bit? But let me throw this question at you now. Now that you've taken a break and you've come back, you've kind of reevaluated. You've figured out the why of why you're still doing this beyond community, because our group chat is quite a lot of fun. I
Yeah.
think that's something that I look forward to all the time. But so talk to me, like what is something that you're excited to get back into, or continue
Yeah.
building, or what goal are you continuing to work on now that you're back?
The what has really been my main focus coming out of, kind of coming into the new year, and we were talking about goals, and I sat here and did a goals, video, and the curation of what I have. I still want to spend time improving the look of my collection. I want to spend more time not dealing with just things tucked away in a box that, for whatever, the chase is fun. We talk about the destination and the journey, right? Like, the journey's part of what's happened in this hobby while you're trying to search down and track down cards that you like. But once it's here, is that the end, or are you gonna actually enjoy the process of the progress that you've made in your collection? So, those of us that like the completionist side of it, I think that's something that I felt like I had to back off of, because
Right.
my wife and I was talking, because she is a library media specialist, because she's not just a librarian, they're media specialist too, right? And she's fantastic at what she does. But
Right.
we talk about reading books, and I'm like, if I pick it up and it sucks, I'm still gonna read it, because I feel like I need to invest the rest of the time I need. Like, I just have a problem putting it down. And she's like, if I read two paragraphs and it's bad, I'm done.
That's me too.
And I'm like, maybe
Yeah.
that's more of a reassessment of, like, knowing when to cut bait on some
Right.
things. But and she's like, I'll ask her about a book, she'll share with me, and I'm like, what, what do you think about this part of the book? She's like, I don't remember that. And I'm like, why? She's like, I speed read
Done
through
any
them. Like,
good?
she's like, I hit the highlights. So it's funny because I'm super detail oriented, and
Hmm.
she's overall, like, she sees the holistics, like the big picture, and I want to know how the nuts and bolts work, which what makes us great to work together,
Right.
as spouses. But sometimes I need to step away. So it's like, I'm sitting here going, I want 1,000 Javi Lopez cards, all in Braves uniforms, and I do that, and then I'm going, but what if I keep going with the Orioles stuff, because the number's 2,400, right, total
Right.
cards roughly, and then I have to sit back and go like, but why? You
Right.
know, why do I want to do that? Because I want to say I got all 2,400. Because once you hit that numerical goal, in a super collection, you're kind of like, where do I go from here?
Right.
And trying to pick off, rare stuff that's going to come up on occasion is kind of the way to go. But you've got this gap in your collection, this gap in your hunt, for what you want to do. So I think filling
Right.
that gap with enjoying what's here, and getting rid of stuff. I've thought about it, and I don't. A lot of guys talk about donating base cards to children's hospitals
Yeah.
or to sports leagues, and that's something that I think would make me feel like, part of the collection is trying to share it and pass it on to
Hmm.
younger generation. And I've been fortunate to coach a group of really great 10-year-olds, some who collect, some who don't, but just bringing them cards to practice, or having things at the game for them, they've really enjoyed that. And I
Good.
think that's something that we want to myself and my son want to kind of do moving forward is, and I've talked about it before, but it's just, it's really like this is it. Like, this is what I need to do moving forward to make sure that I'm happy with what I'm doing in this hobby.
Right.
And my wife gave me some great advice. She's like, you can enjoy it. Cause I told her, I was like, I don't have any drive to even, like, I don't even want to go downstairs and look at them, and it was just kind of disheartening to think the time you spend doing this, and all of a sudden you're
Yeah.
just absolutely, almost to the point where it was like, it makes me feel bad to go and look at my collection and go like, what was the point of all this? Like, and she's like, you don't have to spend 8 hours. You don't have to spend 6 hours. Just spend an hour, and set some limits with the time that you do it. And of course, like, she wasn't like, hey, you're doing this too much. Her thing was,
Right.
you need to keep doing things you enjoy, but you need to understand, if you feel like you're neglecting other things, you need to set limits.
Right.
And, hearing that from her was huge to help me understand that, like, it's okay to do things you enjoy as long as you understand how to prioritize and manage that time. And so that was a long answer to your simple question, but the point is, getting back into it and making sure I'm enjoying what I have and not worrying about filling the gap of getting cards coming in all the time, as much as really enjoying, hey, look, this process has been fun, but let's enjoy what's here, and let's share that with my kids. Let's share that with people that come over. And a lot
That
of
was the
people
point
know
of the videos too, right? That was the
Yeah.
point of the videos, was to share in the enjoyment of what we have. You know what I mean? We need to. I agree. We need to do it more, man. We need to do it more. The other day, I looked at my cards. I go, man, those are awesome.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It doesn't have to always be about the new one that's coming in, but that's what you were going to make videos for. That's what we were going to make videos for. So
and that part of it too, like, with it being summer now, because we both work in education, there's I feel like I don't feel the pressure, and there was a lot of stuff going on. It was a really busy year at work, so it was just like, I just could not find time to carve out to make a video that I would be happy with. So hopefully that's going to change. I'm wanting to, I'm not going to make any promises about when something's coming out, but I remembered how much I enjoyed doing that. It's just a matter of being disciplined with your time and what you're going to do with it.
Well, before I show James's comments here, I mean, it is too, man. Balance is everything in this hobby, and it can be an all-consuming thing. I refresh my eBay searches probably more than I'd like to admit. I have the time to do it, but I also need to, and it's a quick thing to do. So I think that when the day comes when I have other priorities, that I can just boom, look, okay, what it is? Nope, nothing. Put the phone away, like, just super quick. But the hobby can become all encompassing. And just the other day, I think I snoozed for 30 days every group that I was in on Facebook. I just snoozed them all. I don't want to see any cards on Facebook. I need to be able to balance it out. And so we talked about Zelda. That came out, and it was nice to be able to have that. I definitely have a obsessive personality, and I think it goes hand in hand with collecting. And so it was nice to take a break from collecting and do that, and then come back. And obviously, with the summer here, as educators, we have more time to put towards that. So all about balance, dude. All about balance. James says, for me, I enjoy it because as much as I love the chase of big things, my collection is a puzzle of the entire history of my team. Go Mariners. So big things are nice, but so is the hunt for cheap stuff. And Ryan and I will agree with that. There's a $3 Pacific Hobby Lopez card that he probably hasn't found yet, that he's like, dude, there's the bronze out of $199. Like, finding them finally is just as exciting as getting the card that you and I talked about before we went live today. I mean, that's super exciting, but they have to be equal. And that's kind of going into that whole, like, you have to enjoy what you have, but also enjoy all the little things that you were able to add to your collection, because sure, they're going to have different levels of excitement, but the process of it all is essentially the same, right? So I think that is something that you need to continue to enjoy. And and that's a big one too. Ryan and I both have our curio cabinets, and I, just like Ryan, we both are big supporters of displaying your cards. So Ryan, just like for people who watch this that might be thinking like, okay, maybe I should display them, maybe I shouldn't. even though there were times where you were like, I don't know if I want to look at them. What do you like about being able to just walk into the room downstairs and like there's your part of your collection? Like give
Yeah.
someone a reason to do it.
Well, even recently with the whole that piece of it, it reminded me that there's things that you just you enjoy this, right? You
Mhm.
may not be enjoying it right now, but it looks pretty sick. you know, you go
Like, yeah,
by and it, like I said, it could be a $3 Javi Lopez card that's shiny in a $2 mag,
makes it look way better.
and it does.
It does.
So, you go like there's a connection to the sport you grew up playing that you love.
Mhm.
It's the sport that you spend 12 hours at the ballpark with your kid, coaching him and his buddy. I mean, so it's more than just a value of a card, or your return on investment is not always money. And
Right.
if you're doing it for a hobby, it better not be, because you're going to be very disappointed. And the return on investment are the connections to your kids, the things you get to enjoy, the memories of the collecting, the friendships you make along the way. And a lot of that I had just kind of forgotten. So if you're looking for a way to say, okay, I'm enjoying collecting, but I feel kind of stale,
Mhm.
find a way to just find what you like in terms of the display side of it, and then come up with some. It can be thematic. You can have different themes. You can have different, like, I'm going to display this particular brand or these particular players. Like if you're a team collector, like, hey, let's get out the 92 team and let's lay those
Right.
cards out, put them on a shelf, put them in a case. um, the great thing about investing in display cases is, as long as you take care of them, if your hobby changes or whatever, something can go in it, right? Like you've got,
Something
it's
can
it's
always go in there.
something that can
Yeah.
always go in there.
Oh yeah.
And I haven't changed it out in a while, but I'm sitting here looking at it going, I've looked at these for a while, but I'd really like to look at these, Pacific cards. I haven't had them out in a while.
Yeah.
Or
Right.
um especially with, like, I picked up a card recently out of the Donruss, the collections, right? So,
Oh, those are nice.
and I'm sitting here going, some of those I have in a binder, with in the folio. And I'm sitting here thinking, I need to, we had talked about it, like, hey, we need to put those in the display, because it's not what, let's see this whole set together, everything from the sample all the way through um, um, the grand, no, I almost say grand finale.
Price collections.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the prize collection. So, it's to see that complete set together, to see that complete run, to see what the company's goal was for that set, right?
Hmm.
So, um, so really, think about things that would make you happy when you have that opportunity to look at it, or you're
Yeah.
going to get a chance to share it with other people, because it does become a moment to teach people about the hobby, to teach people about the sport. And when you take the time to make it look nice, people appreciate it, whether they are interested or not. People will appreciate
Exactly.
the effort
Ex-
and the approach. And um, so if you want to display, find what you like. I mean, it doesn't have to be curio cabinets. It doesn't have to, it can be chair railing on a shelf. The first time I ever saw cards displayed was my cousin when we were kids, and he's a few years older than me, but they had just put like chair rail molding along the wall, and he just kind of had them sitting along the wall. And it was just, I was fascinated. I was like, this is really
Right.
cool.
Right.
So find a way that keeps you interested in how you want to display this stuff, and I think that's what keeps it mixed up. I think that's what keeps you in tune to what you have,
Right.
and don't try to display it all. Just say, pick a finite amount of space, a finite amount of cards you want to put out, mix it
Right.
up, throw some memorabilia in there with it. If you got that, if you got, autographed ball, baseballs or whatever,
Right.
just find different ways. And I like putting stuff for my sons in there with it too. So
I was going to ask you, are you going to do cards for this team again?
yeah. My wife brought, she's got a really nice camera. So she brought it to the tournament yesterday. I asked her if she would do it. So
Nice.
she was working on getting some photos yesterday. So we're going to do them. Yeah, we're definitely going to do them again
All
this
right.
year. So try to keep
Sweet.
that theme going.
I'd like to put this request out live so people know that I've asked and hold you to it. I would love to put it in the case, or like if you do an extra one of your son and have him sign it for me. I have one of a player from last year who I taught, And so I'd throw it up in the case for sure. So putting that
Most
out there
definitely.
now.
All right.
Yeah, I just think it's fun because I know I would do it too. If I had any family members, if I had a
Yeah.
nephew or a niece or whoever. But I do want to give a shout out to my buddy Pointer21. I actually don't remember, or I don't think we've ever exchanged names, but he's a young collector and he loves Braden Point just as much as I do Marc-Andre Fleury. So it's really cool to see somebody. When I was that age, I was interested in some other things, we'll say, but seeing someone who shares that passion with an athlete who carries themselves so well, I think you can appreciate that too. And as an educator, it's been really neat to see him. And he's right. Even as a young collector, he understands that. And he and I have had some really good discussions about not letting it get to the point where you get burned out. You don't want that to happen. The burnout happens in education. Burnout happens in any job, in coaching, anything that you do. So I'm very careful of that. I did post this quote in the chat for you. This is huge. This could be the quote of the episode right here. I mean, so many people when they're selling cards, and we're all guilty of this, think, well, I got to get top dollar out of this. Got to get top dollar. And I was watching Jeremy Lee's show, I want to say about a month and a half ago. He had a guest on, and his guest said, you know what? Here's a food for thought for everybody. And I'm like, all right, here it comes. Because usually when somebody on that show drops knowledge, you want to try to take it in. He goes, well, I paid $100 for this one Peyton Manning card, and I enjoyed it for about 6 months, and I got $75 for it. And I didn't think to myself, well, I paid 100, so I should get 100 for it. Now, if you can, obviously you do it, right? We all know that. But he said, this is the price of enjoying the card. I've enjoyed it. $25 less. I've rented it and enjoyed it for 6 months. So what? And so I think what you're getting out of your collection is definitely not always going to be money. If that's how you collect, great. Good luck to you. It's hard to do, but that's huge, man. I think that changes the mentality so much to let people not feel like they've failed when they look at everything. Like you said, it's a few months ago, you were like, why am I doing this? But you found that answer, and now you're able to look at it and say like, hey, because I like it, because this is awesome. It makes me happy. So definitely wanted to give you a shout out for that quote, man. I feel like every episode I do on the Essential Credentials and on here, I've got Alan is famous for dropping quotes for us, but since he hasn't been on lately, you've now taken that role. AC guy, he had a couple of good quotes here, and then we'll move on. It says, this is a cool thing too.
Yeah.
You ever seen that, Ryan? Have you ever seen like the vintage packs? Like I've seen them displayed, right?
Yeah, I've seen slab pack, people who collect unopened wax, people who, I think something I wanted to do early on, and this kind of is similar, but is, have some boxes of just some, what we quote unquote junk wax, just kind of on the shelf. And it's just fun. Yeah. And collecting unopened packs is, you think about, that's just another way to find how you like to collect. It's just something you can enjoy. And the packaging is just as much of a nice thing to look at, because that's what draws us in, it's that beautiful design on the pack or the player that's on the pack. So that's a great way to collect. We actually bought some Star Wars packs from, I think it was the late 90s that I got from my son, and I just bought them sealed just so he could, put them up and display them in his room because of the design of the packs. So yeah, I love that.
And shout out, nice job. It's tell your son that he's got a nice Pokemon card collection that people are enjoying. That's great.
I have learned more about Pokemon in the last 18 to 24 months than I ever thought I would. I was a little bit older when it got pretty popular, so but yeah, no, I've really enjoyed it with him. It's just fun. It's also fun to explain to him how you can't get a pack or a box every day. And it's like, he's like, hey, well, I'll pick him up from school. And he's like, we go past Dairy Queen, like a quarter of a mile from his school. He's like, Dairy Queen? I'm like, no, we got to go eat. He's like, Walmart? I'm like, no, I got to stay married. So, but no, it's been great because when he does that kind of stuff, you're like, hey, why do you want to do it? You just want to open them? You don't want to, there's no other reason. If you just want to open them, then
Wrong reasons.
wrong reasons. So
Yeah.
so it's like you go and you sort them. You go through and I showed him how to do all that stuff, and he's not patient enough to sit down with it long term. But then I
Right.
come in his room and he's got the binders out, laying on his bed, and I see him putting different types of cards together, and I'm like, okay, now he's getting it a little bit. So
Right.
it's been,
That's been great, man. It's
but
it's been
I've
great
really
to hear.
liked it.
Yeah.
I like to learn. I mean, I think that's really part of it too. Is I like to learn. When I first got back into it, the learning side of it, of like, where has the hobby been since I left? Like, where's it been?
Right.
Where are we at now? And how much money am I going to waste on blasters until I realized that there's hobby boxes? Not that it was a waste, but just not knowing, and you feel like you get to a point where you're so in tune with it. You're like, what's left to discover? And there's something, there's always something,
Always.
but
Always.
branching out into, a trading card game, and Alan did it too. Like, he was kind of going back to his roots with, was it Magic?
So
Doing,
yes, Magic, and
yeah.
I'm glad you're bringing this up because I haven't shared something with you. I don't know if you can see right there, but I too am always looking for something, not just a quick hit, like a quick shot of something to give me some adrenaline and then back off. I think I've tried that with like Curtis Joseph and it didn't stick. And so I'm like, okay, that's not going to work. But my buddy, Rob, who is on Instagram, I don't know if you follow him, anybody else, go check him out. He's Zomdos Collectibles. A couple of years ago, he posted this card, a trading card game card. And I'm like, ooh, this brings me back to the game I played back when I was a middle schooler on PlayStation. And I've always had that on my watch list on eBay or like save searches for 2 years because the card kept being expensive. So it finally pops up for an even $99.99, like even $100. And I go, uh-oh, I think something's about to happen here. So I was talking with my buddy Justin. We weren't live, but we were kind of doing this, just hanging out. And Justin Malden, and I go, Justin, I think something's about to happen. And of course, he sends me over the edge because he brings out all his other, like, Batman and like all these other. I'm like, geez, So anyway, I got myself, when I was in middle school, I played Final Fantasy VII, and I loved that game. If you remember, it was the triple disc game from PlayStation. And Cloud with not Sword Breaker, what the heck is it? The Breaker Sword is on his back, and he's looking up at the city. And so that was a huge game. It was my first RPG growing up. And then I went and looked at the cards, and I found, just like I'm sure you did with Pokemon, I had that same discovery of like, oh wow, this is actually pretty cool. I have no idea what the heck the game is, but these look amazing. So if you don't mind, I'm going to drop a little, bet you didn't know this about Matt. Here's my website that I'm always continuing to work on. I think it's coming along quite nice. I know who that is. But if you look over here, Final Fantasy trading card game, you'll see that I've scanned. I don't have them all in, but most of them I've scanned in. And this was the first.
Oh, wow.
This is the first one that I ever saw that I was like, oh, Lordy, like this is amazing. So this is the original one that Rob posted, and I'd always liked it just because this is the original design of him from the game. Like if you remember, like the post-fight menu, you would see this. So I always thought the foil looked really cool. And then I started discovering like, oh, there's some other ones that look really cool too. Like the art on this is just, I'm sure you've seen on Pokemon cards, the art's just beautiful. So
yeah,
I've gone and picked up a few, and I've learned like the full arts. I don't have any full arts yet. I'll get to them, but the full arts are a little more expensive, right?
Yeah.
So just like the Pokemon, but like this one right here of Lightning, the full arts tend to be a lot more expensive. And so I've had to really be careful not to go over the edge, but I think for me, it's all about like the colors of them, right? And the design of the characters. And I can find an appreciation with that. So it was a nice, while you were taking your break, I was doing this. And it was really nice to, I don't think I spent too much money, but it was nice to make some new connections and find some neat cards. And so to top it off, I don't have a scan of it yet, but I found there was a product that came out called Final Fantasy Museum, and it was a tribute to the Final Fantasy VII game, which they've remade, and they're doing a trilogy of remakes for it. So the first one's out. Everybody loves it. and there was a product, and I'm like, there's this one really cool like case hit card that I like in it, but I'm going to open a box and just, get some foils. And so the foils, they look really nice. And they're just like,
Oh, wow.
pictures of the different characters and whatnot. And so I go, that would be kind of neat. And I swear on my second box, the guy sent me a free box, and I bought one. He sent me a free one, and the free box, the card I was looking for was in there. And I think it's the most excited I've been. I was opening right here. It was the most excited I've been about for a poll in. I mean, I don't open product anymore, right? So right. I think since when I was first getting back in the 90s, when I first met you, I had opened a couple 90s boxes as well. And I pulled like a Bonds autograph, and I pulled a Chipper auto, and so a couple nice cards. The Nomar Warp Zone. And but that pulling that cloud, it's a gorgeous, gorgeous card. It's like a big signature of the artist on there, and it's a big, huge, shiny foil card. I mean, it's just spectacular. So I have to say, like, it was really fun to go and learn something new. So that was a bit long-winded. I know there's still some people watching, but I'm curious for those who are watching, like, what's a fun side PC that you got going on? Ryan, don't you think you could easily get into Pokemon if you had a lot of extra money to spend? I feel like it could happen.
Yeah, and it's affordable. I mean, it really is, because you can grab a retail box, or you can buy a booster box. You can pull the same cards. So it's not like you're having to go to a hobby exclusive product to get, a rare card. And the fact that it's a trading card game, the purpose isn't necessarily just for collecting. And a lot of people, a trading card game is either to be played or, we collect. He doesn't play Pokemon. And I've tried to talk him into it. I played with my older son when he kind of got into it a little bit, and we tried to learn the game, but he just likes to collect them. He likes the characters. He likes the look of the cards. So that's perfectly fine. But it becomes it is an affordable entry point for the most part,
Yeah.
So and you can still get that same impact of pulling a card like that you're interested in, and you have a pretty good idea of the hit ratios and the locations. And the cool thing with those is where the quote unquote hit spot is. In Pokemon, so you can shuffle the cards and kind of go through and reveal it in different ways. And there's a lot of, but yeah, I mean, there's, I've thought about, going back, Ninja Turtles was a massive part of my youth. And, there's a revamp, my kids have been like, we want to go watch the new Ninja Turtles movie. I'm like, seriously? Yeah. I'm like, so I was like, okay. Whenever it releases. And, we went and watched the Mario movie,
that was fun, wasn't it?
It was. It was great. I mean, so we just, like, I'll just go buy a box of those, Ninja Turtle cards from back in the day, bust them, their wax packs, put the little set together, and talk about, so it might be kind of a one and done kind of deal, but it's, that would be a great time. I mean, it would be fun. So yeah, finding some side PCs, even outside of sports, is a great way to kind of branch out and just kind of reconnect to your childhood or something that's new. And
I've definitely found myself like doing that more lately. I think I don't know if you're the same way, but I've never been. It's funny. I got where the heck is it? I might have taken it down, and I'm going to rehang it. I have this plaque that says Matthew at the top, and it's got like a similar color background as our background here. I don't know if you remember those, but it has all these traits listed for the name. And one of them is he cannot settle down to any one thing. And I mean, that has stuck with me my whole life. I mean, the ADHD part,
Yeah.
But I think, the flurry stuff is great. But for me, I think, okay, I need to keep things fresh and exciting. Just reorganizing the case isn't going to do that for me. Like maybe doing videos would be, but that hasn't stuck yet. Doing the lives, yes. But I need to find a way to keep it exciting. So I think having a little Final Fantasy sprinkled in now. And then, of course, the Jefferson PC, that's got me super excited. Yeah. I mean, I think I've enjoyed that as much as anything. And because it's focused, right? I'm not just picking up willy-nilly. It's very focused. But I think it's kind of cool to see our evolution as collectors. When we first met, you were kind of figuring out what you're going to do. It was Freddie Freeman, and now it's Javi Lopez, but you don't just stick to that. And I find a lot of people, even the guy that was on Jeremy Lee's show last night, Al, he's that big Jerome, I got to say his name right, Enginla, said it right, Enginla collector. He's got like coins and stamps and Iserman and other players like Mike Bossy, like he's spread out. So it's kind of interesting to see that because there's so much cool stuff out there, man. Like I can't get over how much cool stuff there is, like Ninja Turtles cards and Batman Forever cards. Like I went down some interesting paths while you were gone, just trying to get, keep the interest going.
But I got a box of those. You want them?
Do you really? The Batman Forever ones?
Yeah.
No way, dude.
Yeah.
Talk to me after we're done being live.
Right.
We gotta figure something out.
I can't guarantee they're not stuck together, but
dude, that's not the point of opening them, right? But yeah, I think. But you know what I'm trying to say? Like I think people, as they've settled down and getting back in it, we're all getting back into our lives now. We've hopefully going to be able to stay like this for a while. We don't want to remain stagnant. We sat and did nothing basically other than the hobby and focus. So it's nice to have something new here and there. And I feel like there's so much that the hobby offers nowadays. And man, I'm loving looking at basketball case hit inserts, even though I'm never going to buy one because they're so expensive. But I'm enjoying like seeing everything. So now that you're back, obviously you want to go and finish some Javi Lopez goals and whatnot, but talk to me about some of your side PC goals. You got the Derrick Henry stuff going on, which of course I love those videos. And I'm sure after we're done talking here, you're going to be like, Matt, go make a video, man. But so with the Henry, what do you got going on with that? And what other little goals do you have going forward?
Yeah, Henry's been, and it's, your Jefferson PC was what kind of got me on that, because the hyper focus side of that was what was a huge draw, because it was like with super collecting for so long, it was just whatever the gaps were, fill the gaps, right? And sometimes it was like, I really don't want to buy this card, but I got to fill the gap because it's there and it's in. So that was kind of like, once that goal was hit, it was like, well, what do I do now, right? So that has been fun because I don't feel like I've made myself obligated to chasing everything there, right? And being very focused on, like, whether it's case hit or whether it's a low numbered insert that just like, oh, I like that. I don't care that it's not a case hit. I just really like that card. So I want to add it to the Henry collection, and I'm not worried about having 1,000 of his cards. I'm more focused on 30, maybe 40 over time. That I just go like, these are really great cards, and I can enjoy these all the time. So, but something I've had a few different pieces of memorabilia that I haven't had a chance to display yet. I've showed a few of those pieces. But I kind of want to find some memorabilia pieces to kind of mix in with the Lopez collection. A friend of mine here locally found a listing on, I think it was on Macari, and we're pretty certain that it was one of Javi Lopez's catching helmets, but it was probably one he used like in bullpen, because the way the 8's on the bill, it's not on the back of the helmet. So he's like, if you're not going to buy it, I might buy it, because he likes memorabilia. And at the time I was like, just go for it.
That was where you're at.
But, picking up, like, he's got some batting gloves that are on eBay. He's got some other pieces. So just, I would like to add some things like that to create a little more depth.
Variety too.
Some variety to it. I've not really picked up any autographed portraits or autographed prints. So that would be kind of something, neat to add to it as well. But in terms of the card side of things, I just really haven't thought about where else I want to go. I still have the Contenders collection of Alabama players, in the Contender sets, and it's been good. And but that's kind of one of those where that product got so expensive, and
as did everything else.
Yeah. But just even on the secondary, like I just don't understand. Like there's 3 cards that I just don't think I'll ever have in that collection, and I'm okay with it unless I don't feel like I want to spend that kind of money on that collection.
One thing, yeah.
I mean, honestly, I benefit from Tua not doing well, to collect. Like, there are Mac Jones not doing well in the league for my collection purpose, because I'm not collecting them because they're good in the NFL. I'm collecting them because they were part of, the
Right.
Crimson Tide. So that's not necessarily. But I've picked up a few cards there. But I really haven't honed in on anything in particular from a card aspect. I do like the vintage stuff. I do like the Hank Aaron stuff. That's kind of been the focus there. But that's a pretty big lick, if you want to go that route. So
oh yeah, you got to evaluate that before you decide to go down that path.
Yeah,
for sure.
and but it's also one of those where that, and like I said, it's not all, like I said, it's not all about money, but
Right.
those are the kind of cards that if you ever need to get rid of those cards, there's no problem getting rid of those cards.
Right.
So, and I had thought about the grading stuff just for fun, but the cost of doing that is just not really, for what I want out of it. It's not there, and that came up in our group chat. Will shared a link we kind of looked at that had to do with some grading process stuff, and my mind goes back to that as like, original authentication was just to make sure you were getting something that wasn't fake, right? It wasn't necessarily to put a value on qualities of the product.
Sure has changed, huh?
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna start grading Nike jersey or Nike shirts, and which ones are sewn correctly and which ones are. I mean, I have a hard time feeling. Now I've got graded cards, and we all have some here or there, but it wasn't really about the grade. It's about the card was just not going to show up when it's out of 50 or 25, and you're never going to see it. If it's graded,
it still
okay.
Makes me laugh that people decide to grade cards like that. So silly.
So, but I just don't see like the subjective nature of that process.
Mm-hmm.
Versus
that's why we don't. That's why we don't go down that path.
And it's okay if that's what you want to do and you like that and you want to do set registry stuff, like that's great. I mean, gives you something to enjoy, and that's fine. I have no problem with people doing that. I personally just can't feel like that's an area that I feel I need to invest my money to make me happy in my collecting process. So that's kind of something that I've really kind of been processing over the past few weeks. And then when the Will kind of throwing that in there, I was like, yeah, this is just not what I want to do.
Right. Well, but that's like, just like, he said, finding that balance, what does that balance look like for you in the hobby? Does it mean you're going to do this or you're not going to do this? And just always evaluating that. I think you can't get too caught up and lose focus of what you're doing and why you're doing what you're doing in this hobby. Mm-hmm. There has to be a purpose, and I'll just take a minute to say this. I'm sure everybody's noticed, anyway, that watches this, that we haven't had an essential credentials, like even a regular schedule in many, many months. And you're not going to force people to do stuff. Greg and Alan are very, very busy in their personal lives, just like you talked about, and that balance, the hobby doesn't factor into that balance. So therefore there hasn't been episodes, and that's why you and Will and Tyler and Jeremy and hopefully Andy, if we can pull him out of the under the rock that he's living in, can get on there. But I think it's just being able to find ways to make sure that you're always feeling motivated and in balance in life within this hobby. And so you just talking about that is great, because you need to know what you're going to love and what you're not going to love. Mm-hmm. And it's always good to be talking about that. I will say that going back on our goals, a summer goal of mine is to finally, this is mounting tape, is to get the lights in those darn cases, man. Yeah. Holy smokes. Especially for like the bottom stuff. I mean, Louis literally talked about that. And it's kind of interesting though, if I can just throw this out here for everybody. Ryan and I have very similar ways of being motivated and being excited about this hobby.
Yeah.
And when Ryan decided to take a step back, I didn't exactly take a step back, but you were motivating me to do things and I was motivating you to do things. So it's kind of interesting how those go hand in hand. I mean, our friends in this hobby, those are essential, they really are. And So thank you for coming back and making me go to the store today before the episode to buy this stuff. I'm excited to hang them up before I do this next show because yeah, it's gonna be a fun one. I do want to ask you too if you're interested. A friend of mine, Tim, his name is Red Wings fan on Instagram. He just is about to go purchase something really major for his collection, and it's the guy that he started collecting. He would like to come on here and talk about having some kind of finality to your collection because I think that's something that we always just feel like the chase is on. The chase is on. There's always I got my want list. I think I'm still up to like 40 cards that I originally put on there in January for Fleury. The chase is always on, but like feeling like you have some kind of finality to a collection. You mentioned that with Javi. You just mentioned that 1,000 cards. Like, what are you gonna do? So I think it'd be really fun to come back on here. When he comes on here in a couple of weeks and talk about that, the three of us, because for Fleury, I know he's going to retire after next year, most likely. And he's going to have a gap where he isn't getting stuff, So like, do I put a button on that PC till he gets new cards? Do I focus on Jefferson? Like, I think we should always kind of be thinking ahead to there's going to be a point, whether it's you get super old or something happens or your player gets, you're done. There's no more cards to get. What do you do? And so I think it would be really fun to talk about that. Do you have just like a thought on that off the top of your head, just to give us some thought for a couple weeks from now?
Yeah. I mean, every process you go through, there's typically, there's an end point that you have to either avoid thinking about it.
A lot of us do that.
or you evaluate like what's going to make you satisfied with it, right? Like that's why a lot of people have a fear of retirement. It's like, I want to retire, but the unknown after the fact and how I'm going to handle that can be scary. That's a different ball game altogether. But
yes, it is.
But I think because we talked about setting goals, we talked about you got to stick to that, right? Like you got to say, okay, if 1,000 cards or 40 cards or a particular set, if that's where I'm trying to get to, okay, the journey is a huge piece of getting there, right? And the connections you make or the process, like there's some great stories that come out of that process, right? Where cards pop up from and the relationships you build from it or the conversations you have. But once you get there, I mean, we do this in school and people do this in business as well. Like you have to celebrate successes. You have to take time to stop and go, I know with the way the world is in a way, and I say our country, people from all over that watch this, but we talk about it's important to stop and celebrate the success that students have, the success that a team has in a business, because that's a motivating factor. A lot of people need that affirmation to understand that the work they put in is appreciated, right? So you think about when you are doing something for a hobby and you hit a point, and I was like, find a way to enjoy and celebrate it, right? And then you can set new goals from there if you want to. And I think that's part of us displaying our collections is that's a kind of a way to celebrate the process we've gone through and to say, hey, this has been fun, but I look at this card in this case and I don't just see this card from the set. I see this conversation that happened, or I see, the months and months of waiting for it and it showed up, and then finally, reaching out to the seller and trying to work a deal with them, or finding out that they have more of this player and we can work out a different deal. So, it's more than just that card a lot of times. So I think, maybe that's a key piece is like, if you're going to set goals, once you reach them, you got to find a way to celebrate what you've accomplished and what other people have accomplished, or what's the point of doing it? What's the point of reaching, a pinnacle of something if you're not going to celebrate it? I mean, we do it in competition all the time. I mean, you don't just win a championship. It's like, okay, well, we're all walk off the court now. Bye, everybody.
We don't get to cut the nets down or anything. Never mind, we're out.
I mean, so it's finding a way to go, okay, all the work that went into this, there's a reason to enjoy it, right? And
heck yeah, man.
So maybe that's just one thought.
Well, it'd be interesting to talk about that in more detail next episode in a couple weekends here, just because that is something we should all be considering. There is an end point. There's an end game to this hobby for you. It doesn't mean that the hobby's done, but there could be an end game for a certain PC. You know, if your goal is 1,000, then don't continue it on. Like, reach your goal and celebrate that with your friends in the hobby, and then where are you going next? You know, I think the Derrick Henry thing has been fun for both you and me with the Jefferson and Henry, because each and every one of those cards that comes in, man, I get really excited about. Not that I don't for, you know, Fleury. Of course I do. I love all those. And Glass now too, of course. I'm glad he's back. Ooh. But I think there's something about that collection that makes me go, okay, it reminded me that I need to be excited about every card that comes in. So it's really nice. Sometimes you discover when you've reached a goal and you feel like, I'm kind of at like an impasse right now in this one collection, the things you discover, Final Fantasy or Pokemon or whatever it may be. So, but great discussion today, man. It's really good to have you back, and glad that you're, you know, in a good place mentally to do this. Nobody's forcing you to do this, and you're back, and look forward to hearing. Hopefully you can make it on the Essential Credentials. We're going to be doing that next weekend, which is exciting because one of our favorite people is coming out with a book, and so we're going to talk about that and having him on the show here in 3 months or 4 months, however long that's going to be, and talk about some other things. But before we end things here, I don't know if you have stuff in front of you or what's going on, but would you like to share something that you've added to your collection that you're excited about?
Yeah, I can. It's funny, you know, you say I take a step back, but you as I told you before we came on, I walked by the case and I was like, I'd just pick up a card here or there, just throw it in the case and wouldn't even. And then I was like, well, you know, I might need to grab a few cards if we have a minute. And I was like, okay, maybe I bought more than I realized I bought. I mean, it wasn't. I mean, we're talking. You know, it's been several months, but it was really nice to see that. Hey, I can grab a card here or there, and it still be fine.
Right.
And it's just one of those moments for the first time in a long time where it's like I pull the card out of the case and like, oh, I'm excited about this. You know.
Okay, let's see a few of them, man.
So.
Gotta see a few for sure.
Yeah, man. So from this is Bowman Heritage. So I have the 101. I think you remember. This is not the 101, obviously.
Right.
But this is the 1/56, which is tough to find.
Such like a classic design, man. It looks like if there were jersey cards in the 80s, that's what it would look like.
Yeah. So I was like, I don't know if this one will ever pop up, but this is 5/56. So 56, you know, design.
Right.
But yeah, so that kind of filled in a massive gap in the collection. I don't even remember if I showed you this one or not, but this is buyback auto.
I don't know. That's the first time I've seen it. Yeah. Where is it from? Flair?
So this is Upper Deck. So it's the 04 buyback. It's funny. It's the buyback is the same year, but tough to see the auto. But if he's got something that's you know in the pack, that's what I go after. This was a nice little surprise because you don't see many of these pop up.
Oh wow! Whoa! And is there an actual jersey in there or no?
No, there's not.
Okay.
It's just kind of it's just where the gap would be in it.
Oh, that is cool, man. I didn't know they released it. What year is that?
So this one is 06, which is cool because you know he was with the Orioles in 06, but this is one of those epic event inserts. So of course it's when you know he had that great series back in '96.
That's cool, man.
And so he's in a Braves uniform in that one, which is kind of cool because even though this is the sign, the bluish color, it looks like a powder blue jersey, even though it's not.
Yeah, that's neat, man. I didn't even know those were out there. It's got to be fun too when you have that moment of discovery, thinking like, I like when we don't know something's out there, and then we're like, wait, what?
Yeah, it's like it's one of those things like in a huge master list of cards that I have, but I'm like, I don't think I'll ever see these plates from 06. Right. I mean, this one here rounded off the set for 99. I believe it's 99.
Okay, this better be a Pacific card.
It's not. I'm
just kidding.
I've got some. I'm having trouble. This is just the first day issue.
Oh, that was such a nice design. You can feel the seams of the ball down the bottom. I think, right?
Yeah, it's pretty sick. These are out of 200, but I've took forever to find that one. You know, I've showed you the national treasures like Javi, like Panini's brought Javi back in.
So
Sorry
tell
for the
everybody how out of touch you were. What happened?
I was so out of touch that I was like, I got to have one more to finish the run, right? So I've got to get like this one's out of 10. So I
Right.
jumped on and was like, I got to have the one out of 25. And there was one list, and I'm like, oh yeah, I don't one. Apparently, I bought another one out of 10 and not out of 25. So I have two out of. I have an eBay one of one and one out of 10.
Oh, geez.
And I have the 5 out of 10. So I guess I'm going to sell one of those to try to pull the other one
Anybody
out.
needs a sweet Javi Lopez auto out of 10, hit Ryan up. He would be more than happy to work with you on that.
So couple Henrys.
Ah, nice.
Catapult there.
For a cheap card, I love that design so much. I really do, man.
It's pretty awesome.
Beautiful.
And of course, I do have a Pacific card, Matt.
See, I knew you'd come through with the clutch, baby. There you go.
Yeah, look at that. Mike Kramer, the OG. I don't know if I showed you this. I just grabbed a bunch of stuff, but
oh wow!
Not that it's significant in any way, but it's one of those like the only card that he had in 2012 was a Leaf cut auto, so it's set on eBay.
What did he sign? Is that like an index card or something, or what is that?
Yeah, it's just an index card. That's all it is. It's just, but it was on eBay forever for like $80, and then the guy just listed them all for auction finally, and I was like, I got it for like $6. So
yeah, sick. Very nice.
These two cards are pretty awesome.
Oh yeah, hey, those look kind of familiar. I don't know.
Yeah. So nice. I was very appreciative of getting those, and
very good.
Three more. I'm going quick.
Yeah, go for it, man.
That was massive.
Oh, that's so beautiful. That's got to go in the case, man. You got to do the Christ collection shelf. I want to see that.
The Elite was the only one we had left, and after having discussion with you guys in the group chat, these are supposedly like 220 print run. Mm-hmm. But everybody's like, these are super hard to find. I mean, let's see, which is the one that's print run out of 55. I can't. It's the
prize collections.
Yeah,
prize collections.
Yeah. So that card, like I've seen 3 of those, and this is the first time I've seen this one. Right. So it's nuts. Right. Panini still giving Javi some love here this year. So passing the torch.
So that's his second Panini project he's in, right?
Yeah. This is the second one I've seen. So I have a feeling that we're going to see some more stuff.
Is that a sticker or is that on card?
It is a sticker auto.
Can't tell though. It actually looks really good.
Which, some of these, he's got some sticker autos with National Treasure too, but the ones I've got are on card. So I'm assuming with the sticker auto, we're going to see some more stuff. And this is a dual auto.
Who is that on the back?
Daniel Susick from.
He's prospecting the Braves system.
No, he plays in Oakland, so nobody knows who he is. But
oh, okay.
And then
you're not going to display that side of the card. Let's be honest.
No.
Yeah.
So, and then this one, I think you'll appreciate this because I haven't said anything to you. Came in 2 days ago.
Oh, nice. What do you think, man? What do you think?
It's pretty sick. I got to get it out of this scratched up top loader. But right. Yeah, it's a pretty sick card and got a good deal on it. It went up for auction, so that's the way to go with that. Yep. So there was a few more cards that kind of came in, and I think some of them I just hadn't shared them in a while. But this is the most excited I've been in a while talking cards.
That's good, man. I can tell that you're pumped about it, but that's it. I mean, you did what you needed to do to bring that excitement back, as opposed to forcing yourself to keep doing it. And I think some people probably would have just pushed on through, and they'd still be at a point right now where they're kind of like, oh, well, I'll just pick this up. So, again, everybody needs to take a break. There's nothing wrong with it. You still looked at searches, which that's what I would probably do if I took a break from just doing stuff. I would still, because you don't want to miss that, especially with collecting Javi Lopez. Yeah. There's some 90s specific parallels that if you don't get on that auction that just popped up, you are not going to get it again for many years. So I don't know who it is, but somebody see.
Are you hearing this?
Oh yeah, it sounds good. Who's performing?
I don't know. The door's closed.
Good. I'm so glad we got 4 live viewers listening to that.
Sounds great, son.
Well, on that note, I'll just share a couple of mine. This is what the cloud looks like now. This is a scan, so I just want you to imagine that being all super shiny foil, like on the level of those Donruss collections. The art is beautiful. The signature, I mean, and the gold pops, dude. It is a stunning, stunning card. So that's the one that I pulled out of a pack. And again, it's like a case hit. So I was over the moon. I sat here for I remember I pulled out of a pack, and for 5 seconds I sat there, didn't say anything, and I dropped it. Didn't drop it, but set it down. I was like, no way, no way. And I took a picture and sent it to my friend. I'm like, look what just happened. And I kid you not, I was recording the first box and the camera ran out of space before I could even finish the first box. So if I don't know what I would have done if I'd have got this live, I would have dropped it on the floor probably. But that's the one that I got. So you can see, I mean, even though this is not in a sports card, it's not in the sports card realm. When I send you a picture of the sucker in my hand, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, that is, anybody could appreciate this card, you know? So yeah, anyway, I wanted to share.
That's awesome, man. I love it.
Dude, I was again, over the moon about it. Again, I've been having a lot of fun keeping the website updated. So I scan, I add it into the collection. I update my overall count, and then I keep them organized by month. And so a big one that came in, which is SP Game Use, right? They're awesome. Yeah. They do some sweet stuff. Was this one right here? Of course, it's got to do this right here. This was the only time Marc-Andre wore that mask with that jersey, and it was for the Lake Tahoe outdoor game. And I've missed out on a ton of these. Now, every now and then, again, it balances out. These kept going for over $200, the ones out of 25. I'm like, what is going on? This is an $80 card all day of any other set. So I finally, e-pack happens. I go and find a guy. I buy it for the $200 that they're all going for. I kid you not. One gets listed the day after I buy this for auction, ends at $125. I'm like, so sometimes, and that was months of waiting, and I still had to pay that much. But I was really happy to get this, man. He looked so sick in that setup with the eye black.
Man, I love it. Netcord is a sweet looking card. I love that card. I love that set. That's my favorite hockey set.
Yeah, that is. And they do it for Stanley Cup Finals. They do it for All-Star Game. And then I got to give a shout out on Instagram to Marshy's cards, like Jonathan Marchessault. That's his favorite player. So I did a Fleury live video, and I showed off what card. Oh, yes. I'll show it after this. I showed off a huge card for the PC, and he had posted this exact card in his story, and he's like, remember when this save happened? Dude, this card has been on my want list for almost 2 years, and it's the only card of that save. Now, you remember how big that save was. I've shared it with you. I have it in my intro video. Mm-hmm. It's a big save. And so he's like, I'll just send it to you. I'm like, no, dude, you got to let me pay for it. I can't not just get it. So I paid for it, and he sent it to me. It got to me in a week from Canada. It was perfect. So that was a really exciting one. This goes in line with your Hobby Pacific cards. When you get a card like a blue or a gold or a bronze, and it could be out of 99 or 199, they never show up really ever. And so I've never seen one for sale. And so there's that. That was really exciting. Card. But man, I'd say the most exciting card by far, I had this number one on my want list. And I think when you cross off the number one most wanted card, I don't know when was the last time you did that, where you crossed off one that was up there that far?
Man, this year started off pretty good. I mean, I think in my top 10, I got it top 15, 3 cards early in the year. So I've going pretty much with a drought at the end of last year. So
it was nice to start off.
But I mean, it's been a few months, several months. Yeah.
Has it? What's number one on the hobby want list right now?
I'm embarrassed. I don't even remember. I haven't looked at it.
How about number one on the vintage want list?
I can. Yeah, I know generally what's on there. Number one is probably the 24K.
Okay.
It's in the top 3. I mean, it's been there for a long time. Missed that card a long time ago for $36. Was that a marriage retreat?
Well, yeah, I remember that story. It was worth it. It'll come back around.
I know where it's at. I mean, I know where the card's at. I know the guy, so it's not like I know where one's at if I need to. But it's what it is. But it's up there. Okay. Yeah, that card's up there, and the credentials, the future from '99.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay,
That
that's the
card.
silver one, right?
Yeah, and it's crazy. No, it's the
The gold one.
gold one because
Okay.
I mean Lopez is in the dead center of the checklist. Dead center, right? So he's got 60 nows and like 61 futures, and I haven't seen one.
Yeah, and how popular that set is, it's going to be a
Yeah.
while till
But
you
I've had
can.
some good cards come in though. At the beginning
Okay.
of the year, like some nice cards. So
Well, I would say that this card is up in the it's up in the 24 karat. Like it's one of those cards. I did an article on my blog on my website about my Mount Rushmore of cards. This is in it. Like this is how big of a card it is. I've had a few multiple autograph cards of Fleury, and I kept thinking to myself, there's one card that has two other players on it. I would never need another multiple auto of anybody with Fleury anymore because his two idols are on the card with him. And so it popped up. My phone blew up. Best part about this hobby, again, is the connections. I had so many people say, dude, do you know this card? Like, you better just click to buy it now because I'm about to do it. So I sent the offer, and the fam helped me out a little bit because things were pretty tight at that time. And I'm like, look, I have to find a way to get this card. I'm not going to have another chance at this price again. And lo and behold, the guy whose name is Max, who's on Instagram, he sent me pictures of him packaging it up, all this stuff. We came to a price, and it showed up. There it is.
Oh gosh, man.
Yeah, dude.
Jeez. So I had a
Yep.
feeling the top guy was on there. I didn't know who was going to be out. So is it Brodeur? Yeah.
Yeah. So
Jeez.
that's from my favorite year of the cup too. So he's got, my favorite mask on. But yeah, he said growing up that Waugh and Brodeur were his idols. And this card, think about it, this card was made in 2009, right?
Yeah.
Into 2009, and they didn't know where these guys were going to end up. But this is number 1, number 2, and number 3 all time in wins, and about to be number 2 as long as he.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah, he's close, isn't he? Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, when you get a card of that caliber, I'm embarrassed to say I didn't do a video for it yet because I feel like that card right there, just like the Glass Now Superfractor, they both deserve a video. So I'm going to need some motivation, but that was, when you get your 24 karat, it's going to be the same feeling. He sent it express too. So it got here in like 6 days from Canada to Alaska. I was like, I couldn't believe it.
That's incredible. That card. I mean, like that's one of those cards. It's like, I'm going to stop collecting tomorrow, and get rid of everything except
right.
Like that's a number one, that's a number one exception right there. That's
right.
I'm happy for you, dude. That's a huge
thank you. Especially we talk so much about goals, Ryan, before we sign off here. We talk so much about goals and that feeling that you get not only from yourself but from your buddies, as you're seeing now. Like when you set a goal to try to get certain cards and it happens, it's a group process, man, and it takes a group to make some of these things happen. And if it wasn't for people on Instagram who knew I was going after it, that stayed away and also sent me the link, I wouldn't have it now. So I think it just makes it so much sweeter, to be able to get that. And hopefully every single person that's watched this and everybody that collects, that has a community around them can experience that. So I do want to share what James said before we go here. The endpoint will be telling my executor how the logistics of selling my collection will work and who to reach out to for help. I think, we're getting to that stage in our lives where we got to start thinking about that stuff. It's kind of scary, but again, that's what all the friendships are about. To keep it exciting.
Yeah. So. Before we do get out of here, I got to say, even though it's kind of been an up and down process here recently, like that, the plate, right? The Javi Lopez plate, like guys like Chuck has messaged me 2 or 3 times, some Javi Lopez cards, just he knows, because he knows that's who I collect. Right. And just when those messages pop up, it just reminds you, like, there's people out there. I mean, you guys, of course, we message a lot, we talk a lot, but, but even when I was just kind of like, I was away from everything for a while, but just seeing those messages pop up, even though I may have not been super active at the time, it just was a constant reminder, like, you go through people's minds. Right. And so that just kind of tells you, it's not necessarily just about the collection, but that people are thinking about you. They know you enjoy this. They know you like this particular player, and they want to make it a point. Like, it may be 30 seconds, but they're taking time out of their day
Exactly.
because, this seems important to you. So, you can't forget those things. I appreciate, you guys, keeping me motivated and kind of helping me kind of get back in the groove of things. And I would say thanks to Chuck too, because like he would just see cards and he's like, "Have you seen this round?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, I'm on it." Because I like saw it like the right within like 30 minutes of him messaging me, but just because, and we don't ever, he and I don't talk, at all that much. It's just kind of every now and then when we see things like that, and he's got a great Ripken collection, and
that's amazing.
So, those kind of things, you never know what little things really mean to people. So I appreciated that.
For sure. Well, and that's a good reminder. Everybody that's watching, everybody that's going to watch this on replay, man, take good care of your community that's around you. Make it a priority. Make it, as we talked about at the very beginning, keep it your number one priority in this hobby. I mean, if your number one priority is to make money in this hobby, then maybe the community is not that important to you. But if you're going to keep it a fulfilling endeavor, that's got to be priority number one. That's after you take care of all your personal stuff and make that the priority. I mean, you can't let this get in the way. But Ryan, great discussion tonight, man. Great to have you back on here. Any closing thoughts from you before we sign off?
Thanks for getting me back on track. Thanks for just getting this set back up. I've been looking forward to it. I know we had to push it back a couple of times, but
all good, man.
It's just it feels like getting on the bicycle again. So.
That's right, dude. Well, have a great Memorial Day weekend, and welcome to the summer break, baby. Let's do it.
Let's go.
This teachers, yeah.
I got an 8-hour drive in the morning. Let's do this.
Have fun, buddy.
Thanks, man.
I'll be enjoying the hobby from my house tomorrow for you. But James, Pointer 21, AC guy, and everybody else that's in here and was in here earlier, thank you for watching and commenting. We're going to be doing these weekend hangouts a little more often. There's some people that can't go to the round table, Logan and Tim, namely, and Alex, who can't make it during the weekdays. So we'll try to get them in here and just kind of make it a hangout place where it's a little less structured. We can just chill and all that good stuff. So look forward to that. Essential Credentials is going to be next weekend. We haven't laid down a time and a date exactly, but we want to get Ryan and Will and Jeremy and possibly Tyler and Andy on, because we got some pretty big news in regards to Mike Kramer. So we want to share that and we'll continue this discussion there. So yeah, everybody have a good one, and we'll catch you next weekend. Thanks guys. See ya.